waste my life. I don't wanna waste my life. Living in this world.
When the beats.
It's just some things, there's no going back. You know what I'm saying?
jwoodbeats.com.
Yeah, I'm not the one with the issues. I hear you. Now here is your tissue. If I'm moving too fast, I might have to dismiss you. And it's really too bad, cause I really will miss you. But I'm not the one with the issues. I left him at church when I made it official. I murdered the curse with my own benediction. Left God in the dirt, call it death of the fiction. Superstition will be served in eviction. Competition will be left in the ditch. Oh my God, it's too damn hot in this kitchen. The fishes of men are now swimming with fishes. Oops, my bad, I guess I'm moving too vicious. Verses sold, I gotta put them on your wish list. Bless my soul, cause I'm dodging your little hit list. I guess you know, you just lost another witness.
Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, I'm out of here. I can do anything, fuck your opinions and energy. I finally got the epitome, my biggest hindrance was God can't do nothing but fail. Greater is me, I never needed your deity. All of this human capacity, when it gets rough, I can pick myself up and prevail. Cause I don't need anything other than people who fuck with me. Good business, it starts with good company. That's why your boy is obsessed with community. Cause greater is we can create opportunity. Doing what God never did, cause a God never could, but a people is all we need. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, yeah. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go right now. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, yeah. Gotta let me go, gotta let me go, gotta let me go, I'm out of here.
What's up, family? Man, we got so much music. We have so much amateur music. I never know which song is going to play, but man, that was incredible. This has been such a busy weekend. We had our 10K celebration fundraiser Friday, and then we had our Sunday sessions this morning. Then, of course, now we're back here. And man, it's been crazy. But listen, welcome in, everybody. Welcome to the Ex-Pastor Call-In Show. If you're excited to be here, will you go ahead and drop some fire in the chat? I mean, don't play with it. If you're going to be here, man. Go ahead and drop some fire in the chat. And speaking of chat, let me make sure I can see the chat so I can see if we cutting up or not, right? So listen, welcome to the Ex-Pastor Call-In Show, a product of Bridge City Global, where we're committed to helping people find community support and resources beyond religious presuppositions. We host this show monthly on every first Sunday, offering a space for non-believers, skeptics, and free thinkers who crave conversation and solidarity. If there's a topic you've always wanted to explore with a pastor or an ex-pastor, tonight is your chance. All right, now, so before we jump into this, I do have a few announcements. First one is, well, it's not really announcements. I'm announcing it, but here it is. Let us know where you're watching from. If you know this, we keep a map pinned down every time one of you tell us where you're watching for. If it's not already on our map, we throw it on there. So you let us know where you are watching from. Today, we found out we had some supporters from Switzerland. That was not on our map before. So now Switzerland is on the map. Namibia, it was already on the map, but we got another supporter in Namibia. Saudi Arabia was another spot on the map, but we got another supporter in Saudi Arabia. And I mean, those are the other continents. We got stuff going on here too. But please let us know where you are watching from so that we can know where community is growing at. Also, super chats, man. If you got a question tonight, but you don't want to call in, send us a super chat. We'll answer your question live on the air. So I'm going to say that again. You got a question tonight, and you say, "Man, I don't want to get in that screening room. I don't want to call in. I don't want to be on the screen." What's up, Bahamas? All right, so we have a growing group of people in the Bahamas, so we got to start linking y'all together, man. So yeah, if you have a question tonight and you don't want to come on air, you can give us a super chat and we'll answer your question live on air. You got that? Everybody got that? Are we all good? It's so many fantastic people in the chat. Let me make sure I can recognize some of y'all, man. Oh, this is beautiful. Obviously, I see my wife in the chat. I see Kyle in the chat. I see Alyssa in the chat, who they're also all in the studio right now. So major shout out to them for making this a lot more stress less for me. I was about to say a lot more stressful. That would be bad. But no, a major shout out to them for making this a lot less stressful for me by handling the back end stuff and doing an incredible job at it. Muttley is already in the chat moderating as usual. Man, love you. Miss Non Sequitur, glad to have you hanging out with us tonight for the call-in show. Let's see here. Ryan Coltastic is in the building. Infidel. All right, man. All right. So we got a full house and the numbers are growing. So listen, if you're watching right now, here's one of the easiest things you can do to support the work and to make sure that we have one hell of a time tonight is share this stream, right? So just go ahead and click that little arrow that looks like it's pointing somewhere. Click that, and then you can pick where you want to share it to. You can share it to Facebook, you can share it to Twitter, you can share it to Threads, you can share it to TikTok, maybe. I don't know. Actually, I don't know how all these things work, but pick a place to share it to, man. Share it and let somebody know, because I'm telling you, this is going to be some phenomenal questions. This is going to be some phenomenal conversations tonight. And so, also, man, if you've ever been impacted by this, even if you don't have a question, consider dropping a super chat or check out our Patreon so you can become a monthly supporter. Also, we've been talking about Bridge City weekends. Listen, I got to let you know we are pressing pause a little bit. It's delayed, but it's not denied. We are pausing on Bridge City weekends just for a little bit while we recalibrate. But I promise you, this is going to be exciting. So stay tuned for more information. All right, so let me get into my ex-pastor phase. Are y'all excited about tonight, man? I am. We have an exciting thing for you. Walking away from faith can feel like stepping into the unknown. For years, prayer was the fallback. Faith was the compass. The church was the community. And then one day you realize that you don't believe anymore. No more divine plans. No more whispered reassurances from a God. No more script to follow. And that can feel terrifying. Because when the faith that once structured your world is gone, you're left with a massive question. How do you cope without God? How do you cope without prayer? How do you cope without these religious leanings? For many, leaving religion feels like losing a safety net. You might be grieving lost relationships, relearning how to navigate challenges without prayer, or trying to find a new sense of meaning that isn't tied to pleasing a deity. But here's the thing. You are not alone. Tonight, we're creating space for real conversation about what happens when you stop believing and how to move forward. Together with ex-pastors and ex-believers, we're diving into conversation about coping without prayer and maybe talking about what actually works instead and finding purpose after faith. Is meaning still possible? And spoiler alert, it is. We might even talk about religious trauma and healing and discuss ways and different paths that people take to move forward. But most importantly, tonight, we're going to be talking about your stories, what life has been like for you after belief. This is your chance to call in and share your experience. Whether you have questions, insights, or just need to be heard, we're here. The screening room is open. Link in, join the conversation, and let's unpack this together. Make sure you subscribe, share, and stay tuned. Let's make this a space for real, honest dialogue about life beyond religion. No judgment, no shame, just people figuring it out together. Let's start the show. All right. Okay, so that's my little introduction for today. Kyle is running late, y'all. Kyle is running late, which he did let me know in advance, so nobody be mad at Kyle. He did let me know in advance. But we're going to get this party started. I hope y'all are excited to be here tonight, because I am. It's so good to see so many of you in here. Cope with swishes and spritzers. I love that. I love that. So listen, welcome everybody. Today is Sunday, March 2nd. I'm DaranteLaMar. And of course, shortly, Kyle will be here joining me as our co-host. And so now, tonight we're talking about how do you cope without God? And since we are waiting for our co-host to get here, maybe we should farm this question out to the chat a little bit. And so I want you all to think about that. How do you cope without God? What do you do in your life now? For those of you who have deconstructed, and I'm curious how many of you may have never been religious. And in that case, how have you found to cope all along? How did you ever cope without God? Because according to many people, since you never had God, you could have never coped. One of the interesting things about my own life is that as I look back over my life, I realized that when I was a believer, I actually wasn't very good at coping at all. When I was a believer, and again, my experience is not a prototype of all believers' experience, but I definitely left the faith because I realized it wasn't healthy for me. I wasn't coping. I was believing that I was being attacked when life was just happening. It's just life being life. I'm not coping. I'm blaming. I'm not coping. I'm scapegoating. I'm not coping. I'm running away. You're not coping if you're not facing reality. You're not coping if you're not critically engaging what you're dealing with. And so even while I was a believer, I was never really coping because there was always an excuse to use. I didn't have to cope. I could say the devil did it. I didn't have to cope. I could say God had another plan. I didn't have to cope. You see, because there was always some excuse, some faith that I could use. All right, so let me look at some of these answers. Ooh, question me is listening while they cook. We got the Black Sheep from London. Nice to have you here from across the pond. Dark Side says, I've never been religious. My music and my creativity help me stay centered. Man, I love that. That music and creativity, that is a great way to cope, right? That is a beautiful way to cope. I love that. I know, right? It is nice to see other people from the UK. Yes, let's rise in the UK. Man, stress eat, that needs to change. You know, that used to be a big one for me. Like, and stress eating was major for me. And again, because as I said, as a believer, like, no, I wasn't really coping. No, I wasn't really dealing with stuff. I was escaping. And so it wasn't until like shortly before I deconverted where I realized that I was really a stress eater. And I mean, and my stress would hit me at night because that's when I would be by myself, nobody else around me. And man, I'd go raid the hell out of that refrigerator, getting everything I could. But that was a part of man, I guess my not coping, if you would, running away, trying to feel that as much as I could. I love that. Ryan says, I like to sew and work with my hands when stressed. Oh, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Man, send the shorts. I love that. Music is a wonderful way to cope. It's so, as you know, I love music. I just so happen to be a big fan. Oh, by the way, this is a call-in show. So let me just remind you, if you're ready to get this party started, even while we're waiting on our co-host, we don't have to wait. If you have a call and you're ready to get in here, you can jump in. You might be the co-host for the night. No, I'm just playing. Don't take that literally. But no, if you got a call, we'll get that up on the screen for you. We'll get that in the chat for you. You can join our screening room. And yes, it is a screening room. Let me explain how this works, because sometimes people get a little surprised. And so I want to make sure that you're not surprised, that you're well prepared. So what's going to happen is you're going to click the link. The link is going to take you to our Discord server. You have it's going to put you in our screening room, which I believe my lovely wife right now is running the screening room. And so you're going to meet her. And then when you meet her, she's going to say, hey, how you doing? She's just going to ask you some questions, most likely. What's your question? That's really going to be one of the questions she's going to ask. And then she's going to get that information. And then she's going to send it over to the production team on this side so they can go ahead and get your banner made. And then she's going to give you a link to the studio. So that way you can come directly into the studio. And then once we're ready to pull you up, we'll pull you right on up and get the conversation started. So if you would like to call in, now is your time. All right. So back to talking about coping. Voted wrong on accident. Oh, Cherry, you voted wrong. Oh, man, it's all right. It's all right. So now I'll keep that in mind, that we're like one number off. I'll keep that in mind, and I will adjust. I will adjust for that. I will definitely adjust. So again, the question for tonight is, how do you cope with God, or without God, rather? Do you cope without God? Are you, since you have deconverted, since you have left the faith, since you have accepted whatever label, whether it be unbeliever, non-believer, heretic, heathen, apostate, atheist, agnostic, since you have departed from traditional religious belief, or maybe even departed from religious superstitious belief, how do you cope? Are you struggling to cope? Do you still pray? Because this is a question I get from believers. They say, well, all the atheists I know, when they get in a situation, they still pray. And I'm like, I actually don't. I don't pray, like, at all, not even a little bit. It doesn't cross my mind. There's never a situation. Oh, Cherry, today in church, it was seriously hard to cope. So y'all got to go check the Discord, because that's inside conversation. See, if you was in the Discord, you know exactly what she's talking about. You know what I'm saying? You'd already know. You'd already know. I forgot what I was saying, but it was about coping. It was about coping. It was definitely about coping. Yep. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, me neither. Parable of sower. I don't even think of praying. It doesn't cross my mind. I don't think of superstitious help like that. Now I do say stuff like Jesus or God, but pretty much in the most profane ways. Just like Jesus Christ. God damn it. It's like that. But and there are some disingenuous believers who'd be like, yeah, see, that means you believe in God. Oh, okay. Like if that's how Fort Bragg, California, all right, beautiful. I think that's a new one for the map. Fort Bragg is a new one on the map. I was talking with them about life, lifting each other up. I like that. Yes. Because honestly, like, praying was like the easiest thing, one of the easiest things to let go. Because it was never really comforting for me, because I really wanted to believe. And so, like, every time I prayed and there wasn't a voice or an actual presence on the other side, it was disappointment. Now, surely I was covering up that disappointment. And I think y'all have heard me say, like, I'd end all my prayers with, nevertheless, not my will, but your will be done, which is what Jesus prays in the Garden of Gethsemane. I'd end my prayers that way to just kind of highlight this idea that, you know what, God, even if you don't show yourself, I'm still going to be faithful. That was the way that I approached that. So, like, even when I was a believer, damn, this is good. Even when I was a believer, I realized that I was having to cope with the absence of God while being a believer. Like, I'm having to, like, I'm praying to God, but God's not talking to me. I'm worshiping, I'm speaking in tongues, I'm laying down on the floor, I'm screaming I'm doing everything that I can think to do to get this motherfucker's attention. And then I'm not actually getting his attention. And so then I have to cope with that absence. So it actually became easier for me to cope once I realized that, nope, it's not absence that I'm coping with. It's non-existence. Like, this dude don't exist, period. Oh, man. I talk to myself all the dang time, like, and straight up, like, it might scare people at times because I have full-blown conversations with myself, and I enjoy those because I know it's me. Like, and we kind of talked about that, shameless plug for Sunday sessions. If you're not in there, I don't know what you're doing. But, like, damn it, I was gonna hit something. Did that rabbit leave? I was gonna say something. It's gone now. It's gone now. Trayvon. Well, hey, man, the link is out there. Y'all, let's make sure we have the link in the chat. Do want to remind y'all, if you want to call and talk about how you cope with God or without God, why do I keep saying it that way? How you cope with God. How do you manage to cope? Do you pray? I used to pray. I used to fast. I used to worship. When Kyle gets here, we're going to talk about our prayer shawls. Adventures with Ember says how to use super chats. Oh, man. It's that's a great question. Somebody help him. Like, he's trying to be a blessing. Don't block him. Don't block him. Somebody help him. Somebody help him. But no, that's good. Ryan says talking to yourself, full-blown combo. Like, I be having full-blown combos with myself. Like, we talk about what we want to do in life. We talk about food. We talk about what we need to be working on. Like we have, because, like I got a friend in me. Oh, what a friend we have in me. That's good. But no, like I've learned how to be good to myself. And so I love talking to myself. I enjoy talking to myself. I'm like one of the best people to ever talk to about me. Oh, that's good. See, I'm one of the best people to talk to about me. That's why I talk to me. But that is one of the ways I cope. It helps me process information. It helps me talk stuff through. Sometimes I think my wife will even hear me say, like, bruh, D, are you tripping? I think I think you might be tripping, you might not be thinking this through all the way. So I like to talk myself through that, primarily because I've had to cope with not having other people who had that type of maturity to be able to help you process stuff like that. So I had to kind of become, I had to become my own therapist at one moment. Muttley, I do too. I lose arguments with myself all the dang time because I gotta get the last word in. And so like the thing just goes round and round and round and round and round. Music has definitely become a way for me to cope. But also like for me, I have less I have less things that I need to cope with now, because things are less impactful for me than they used to be. Like I gave the illustration today in Sunday sessions that 10 years ago, anytime I went through a financial hardship, anytime I went through, I lost a job or something, like it was like life was over. But it was partly because I had this superstitious belief that there is a God who is orchestrating everything on this planet, you know? And so that then if I'm losing something, then that must mean I've either somehow lost this God's favor or this God is testing me in a way that I can't understand. And either way, I don't know what to do that because that shit's not helpful, you know? And so those moments would feel absolutely overwhelming. Now, once I deconverted, and most of you know I'm an atheist with a hard A, once I deconverted, it became like, dude, y'all are apes on a space rock in the middle of nowhere. You know, I had, oh, here it is. I detached from the idea when bad things happen that somebody was doing something to me, that this is the devil doing something to me. This is God doing something for me, which means I also detach from the idea when good things happen that this is God doing something for me or this is me defeating the devil. All of that stuff went out the window, and I kind of began to understand entropy and chaos and the consequences thereof. And just, kind of here's a quote that we all know, but I kind of realized, like, bro, life happens. Like, I know it's unfortunate, it's bad, like, oh my goodness, it's real easy to get caught up in how bad things are without realizing how bad things could be. And I'm not saying that to overgloss anything that's happening right now. What I'm saying is what I realized is like, oh, there is no puppet master in the sky. Bad things happen. Like, who am I to think that it's the end of the world because I've lost a paycheck or because I can't pay my rent or because a car gets who am I to think that, oh man, life is just over when we literally live in a universe where stars explode, where we literally live in a universe where a random asteroid, random ass rock can just hit this planet and bam, reboot. We literally live in a world where tsunamis and earthquakes and tornadoes happen with no difference, with no favoritism, no. And for me to then say like, oh no, I didn't get something that I really wanted or even really needed. Life is so unfair. Yeah, bro, it's unfair for everybody. But a better word is indifferent. Life is indifferent. That sounds scary to some people, but that was very liberating for me. The moment I realized that, I was like, oh, bro, you crying for no reason because life is indifferent, right? See, oh man, damn, how did I get into this? The reason I'm crying, the reason I'm breaking down, and it looks like we have a caller on the way in. Awesome. The reason I'm crying, the reason I'm breaking down, okay, oh man, is partly because I have this belief that I can get the attention of my supernatural deity. because the Bible says that a broken and contrite heart, God will not ignore. So I'm like, man, I'm crying out to God, and I'm crying out to God. So the superstitious belief is that this situation will change if I cry enough. If that ain't childish, if that's not like being like 5 years old and asking your mama for the Snicker bar, and I got the Snicker tantrum video, I might play it. Let me see. I might play it, but that's like being a child in the store for 5 years old, and you got the Snickers, and you want the Snickers, and your mama won't let you get the Snickers, and then you like, but mama, I really want the Snickers, and she like, we ain't got no Snickers, and then you just start crying. At that moment, what you're hoping to do is you're hoping that your crying will manipulate the person who's in charge to change the situation for you. And that's what we're doing when we're praying and when we're crying out to God, and then when we're worshiping and we wrap ourselves up in these prayer shawls. We're hoping that our crying, that our brokenness will manipulate this God to change the situation and work on our behalf. Once I realized that there wasn't a God, ain't nobody to cry to. It's like, no, bro, ain't nobody looking at you cry. You in here crying by your goddamn self. Cry long enough to get that shit out, process it, feel better, but realize that crying is not going to change the situation. And that's not even what it's for. What this emotional moment is for you to understand how this experience impacts you, how this experience makes you feel. But be not deceived, beloved. You crying and praying out to God, and this is what I was having to say myself, ain't gonna change nothing because he ain't there. You know, people say God's arms are never too short to save, but he ain't got no arms, Lieutenant Dan. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's where that shit go to me. Like, no, it's imaginary. It's imaginary. All right. Oh man, but see, now that I've kind of talked about the Snicker tantrum, I want to play it. I want to play the Snicker tantrum while we're getting our next caller ready, because we got a caller coming in. And again, for y'all, for those of you who are just coming in, beautiful. Man, we got over 60 people in the chat tonight. Come on now. And it's just little old me. My little co-host, he late because he worked. He late. And so he done left me up here by myself, you know, but this is beautiful, man. So glad to have y'all in here. But the theme for tonight is, how do you cope without God? You know, how are you, now that you're not a believer, what are you, who do you run to? When life happens, how do you deal? And we look like we got our caller in the chat. So this is what we're going to do. Before we take our call, I'm going to play the Snicker Tantrums video. And then when we get back, I'll be on with our caller for tonight. All right? So y'all enjoy this commercial.
For my intellectuals, for my people who are not yet sold, wash out. Pastor Ron, why is a shout important? Why is a shout even necessary? What in the world do you need me to shout for? Because in essence, the word shout really just means increase your volume. It means you're not loud enough. Hold on, let me do this real quick. I'm about to give y'all something I ain't getting 9:30. Oftentimes when I'm walking in the grocery store, I always notice that there's one particularly unruly child. And yeah. And the child will ask his mama for something, and he'll be like, Mama, let me get them Snickers. And mama be like, no, baby, we ain't got no Snickers money. And he'll be like, okay. Mama, let me get them Snickers. And mama be like, no, baby, we ain't got no Snickers money. Now, y'all got different mamas, so this next part ain't gonna relate to y'all, but you gonna feel me because you done seen it. The next thing the little boy proceeds to do is fall out on the floor. And he opens his mouth as loud as he can. And he's like, Mama! I want a Snicker! Now everybody else looking at the little boy like he need his behind beat. But if he didn't do nothing else, right or wrong, he got his mama's attention. Because now she don't want the whole store looking at her like she ain't taking care of her kids. So that she started reaching in her purse. I'ma find you some Snicker money today. I may beat you when you get home, but I'ma find that money right now because you shouted to me. Somebody open your mouth
All right, so that's me from a past life. I pulled that because we were talking about Snickers and we were talking about emotional manipulation. And then you see how, and this is something that I wrestled with in my deconversion, is that even our approach to God, which is a very manipulative approach, like the whole relationship with God is trying to manipulate God into doing something for you by praying, by tithing, by fasting, by doing all these. Yeah, I was one hell of a preacher, boy. I tell you, I was good at what I did. Now, I was good at what I did. I was also a big boy. I was also very, very, very big. But anyway, damn it, where was I going? But anyway, so I show this, it's manipulative. And then that makes it even harder to be in relationships with other people because then you think this is an appropriate way to engage life. And so your whole way of engaging with other people becomes very manipulative as well. But what I didn't know, oh, thank you. I appreciate that, Miss Non Sequitur. What I didn't know was that Trayvon's question was going to be about this. So I'm going to pull Trayvon up while we put his question on the screen. Oh, I think I may have clicked it when somebody else clicked it. I don't know. Maybe. There it is. All right. So Trayvon, tell us about your question in your own words. And this was like perfect timing.
Yeah, definitely perfect timing. Basically, literally, I was just trying to wrestle like with myself, like, cause I have so many videos and so many like photos. It's like so much of my history is tied with the church, and like I have one specific video of myself from years ago, even saying like I was saying yada yada yada. I could. I understand people aren't Christian, but I don't understand how people can't believe in God. Like I was saying stuff like that, and like now looking back how I am now, and I'm just like, I just like it's just a sigh. It's just a heavy sigh. It's like, that's just eternal. That's immortal in the world of my words. And it's not so much like, strangers. It's more like my family because it's like, how are they going to be able to wrestle with the fact like that is not me at all anymore? And I was deep in it. I'm talking about step team, youth church, summer camp, everything like that. So
Wow.
I'm like, I was just like, I'll put it like this: like my mom showed me a picture of like us kids in front of the pulpit and everything, and I just wanted to burn it. I just wanted to burn it. I was just like, my gosh, like why is this here? Like, ugh.
Oh man. Well, you know what? Like, no, I totally get it, right? And so, and that's what I said. It was perfect timing because I didn't know that's what the question was going to be, and it was right as I was playing this clip that's of me. And this clip used to be on YouTube. It's not on YouTube anymore, but it still is on my Facebook. It's on my personal Facebook. And I did wrestle with whether or not I wanted these things to stay up because ministry had been such a large part of my life. It's something that I've been doing since I was 11. And so, and I didn't take a downtime from it. So literally everything from my life from 11 to 28 is ministry. It's church. Everything that I'm proud of are videos that of me either preaching or singing or leading some type of event. And I was like, but I don't identify with any of this stuff anymore. This is not who I am. Some of the stuff that I hear myself saying is very, very cringy. But I decided to keep it all up. And it was actually when I was there was a book I wrote right on the tail end of my deconstruction called Parenting with Purpose, and Parenting on Purpose, and I still had a lot of those Christocentric stuff still within me, even though I was no longer a believer. And that book has a lot of stuff in it that I'm not really proud of. And I was going to pull it out of publication, and then I pulled it out of circuit, but then I decided not to because what I've embraced now on this side is just like, oh no. I don't have to try to fit into this box where I've always had it right. As a matter of fact, I can understand that I'm an evolutionary person. I'm a part of an evolutionary species. And so I'm allowed to have a yesterday, and I don't have to hide that from myself, and nor do I have to hide it from anyone else. And if anything, it's become a part of my story now. And as you see, I now use it. I use it to show people, especially people who want to say, hey, you weren't a real believer. People who want to say, no, I think you lying about being a preacher. I think you're lying about being a former pastor. Now all they have to do is Google me And if you dig deep enough, you're gonna find some old clips of me preaching. Now, some of the other churches that I've preached at, now they're taking the clips down. They're trying to make sure nobody sees that I've ever been associated with them. But I keep it up because now that I've let go of perfection, I don't feel hard on myself for ever being caught up in that. Sure, was it a waste of my time? Oh man, like damn, I wasted so much money. I wasted so much energy. You know what I'm saying? I wasted relationships. But it's not something that I really look down and just beat myself up about. It's just like, hey, man, I'm glad you got out of that shit, And likely, if I'm still alive 10 years from now, there's probably going to be some other stuff that I'm looking at in the same way that, hey, I'm glad you got out of that. So I've become more open to the idea of just embracing the fact that I was involved in bullshit for a very long part of my life. And just kind of breathing and processing that and letting it be what it be, and realizing that as much as it pained me to kind of come to that place of letting that life go, having the evidence of that life is probably going to make a world of difference for people who have sincere questions and want to just write me off as I think he's pretending, he was never a real Christian. And I think it'll be like the same for you. The more active you get, the more work you're doing, kind of having some of that stuff, that's your evidence, that's your proof. Like, you can say what you want to say, but bam, I was one of the ones that was out here leading the youth groups. I was leading the step teams. I was in it. And it's just a part of that backstory. As an author, I appreciate my backstory. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that, man?
I think that's really good. Honestly, yeah. I mean, I think it's just more of me having to get over like having to think what other people think, and I just really just gotta surmount myself and be like, honestly, it wasn't my choice. Like none of it was my choice. Especially for me, like when I tell you, like I think literally the second I got out the hospital, I was christened. So it was just like I really didn't even have any type of. That's all I knew. That's all I knew. So I think that's what I just really have to keep myself. But now I know more. But it's just so cringy sometimes.
That's it. Oh, trust me, I understand, man. Like literally, y'all just saw one of my cringe moments, and that ain't even the worst one. I got to get some other clips. But man, thank you for joining us tonight, man. I really appreciate you. This was a great question, and we're gonna catch up again. Hopefully, we're gonna catch up again, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also wanted to answer your question, if that's okay.
Yes, please.
I think I'm coping really good without like the whole God thing. Like I don't pray, I don't read the Bible, I don't like it doesn't do anything for me anymore. And not in a bad way, not in a sad way. It's just kind of just like it is what it is. But I'm more just like coping with like my life. I'm just like focusing on what I know I can do, like basically like tangible things. Because when I look back, I was like, I wasn't coping with anything back then either. Like I really wasn't. I don't even think I was really praying when I was a Christian. I think I was just mostly just talking in my head.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yes, sir. But no, that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much.
Love it. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, man. Stay strong and keep rising.
Absolutely. You guys have a great day.
Yay. Now, see, I love what he just said, and where that kind of goes is that he realized, like, he doesn't pray anymore, and he feels like he's coping well now. And it made me think about something, I think one of the reasons it becomes easier for some of us to cope after leaving religion is because we just realize that, like, oh, what I was doing wasn't working anyway. So it's not like, once you realize that prayer doesn't work, and like you really, really realize that, you don't feel like you need to go back and pray some more. Like, and that's why, again, why I say I know people say sometimes they struggle with that, and I don't want to make anybody else's experience seem weird, so I can only talk about mine. But for me, similar to some of you have expressed in the chat, there was just no more need to pray, because a part of my deconversion was coming to terms with this doesn't work. And so, like, from that moment on, I was no longer looking to do things that didn't work. It became, from now on, I want to do things that actually work. If I'm going to cope, I want to cope in a way that helps. If I want to cope, I want to cope in a way that actually makes me not just feel better, but puts me in a position to do better. So I absolutely love that. Sharon said, for me, coping is relying on logic and believing in myself and allow the universe to be. I like that. I like that. Yeah. Because that is it. Like I started saying a few years ago, and I probably said it so much that it drove my wife crazy. But I started saying, what was it? I don't make decisions, I make calculations. And I started saying it so much because I realized so many people's ideas of what decision I need to make is based on subjective preference, you know? And so even like when people work, it's like, what do you want? What do you want? And I'm like, that's the wrong question. The question is what needs to be done? What needs to happen, right? So when I used to go through hard times in life, the question, you know, it's what do I want? What do I want? I don't want to be going through this. I want to be in a better situation. When now, because I'm learning how to, because I've actually learned how to cope, it's not what do I want? It's not what do I don't want? It literally is now, man, what do I need to do? What needs to happen from here? What needs to go from, you know what I'm saying? So like now I feel like I'm like, again, I have less need to cope. And let me make sure that I'm monitoring the chat because I will forget. Yes, I have less need to cope. But also when I do cope, I have healthier measures to cope, right? Because as a believer, coping meant leaning not into your own understanding. You know, as a believer, coping meant, you know, Jesus is just going to give you peace that passes all understanding. Can I ask you, what the fuck good is a peace that I can't understand? How do I have the peace if I can't understand the peace? The whole point of wanting peace is to be able to understand that I got the peace. I don't want the type of peace where you got to tell me I got the peace. I want the type of peace where I understand it. I don't want peace that pass my understanding. I want peace that get to my understanding right there and just stops and doesn't pass go, because it's like you need to understand this shit so we can piece your ass down. You know something? I need some peace I can understand. You know? Oh my goodness. So you just start realizing like, no, I'm not really coping. Video games has become one for me. I don't get to do it much because again, I don't need to cope as much as I used to. But that did, and again, my wife can testify to that for sure. But there were times like if I hit a stint might be coming up. Well, if I hit a stint where I'm like, ooh, I don't know what to do. What I've realized is I need to take my mind off of stressing and worrying about things that I don't have control over and what I don't have power over. So I need to recalibrate. And this is good. This ain't Sunday sessions, but I think this is good information. I realized like, no, I need to recalibrate. After taking a hit, after experiencing a loss, after something happening in your life that is traumatic or, you know, like, or just overwhelming, but and you know you're in a spot where you just can't immediately know the answer. The thing that I'm doing that where my mind goes immediately is I need to recalibrate. All right. So recalibrating for me then is taking my mind and putting it on something else, because overstressing about this isn't actually going to do anything anyway. And at that moment, I am wasting my energy. You know what I'm saying? I am wasting my energy, which is not a good idea. So there's a game that those two. I used to love Saints Row Reelected. That was my joint, mainly because it had a little bit of everything in there. You know, you can style your characters. So I was the black guy who was the president who had superpowers. I was fighting aliens, and there was kink shops scattered throughout the whole game. It was an amazing game. But that game and then Ancestors, which just was a very peaceful game for me. It's a game where you start as an ancient primate species, and you eventually get to Homo australopithecus, I believe. And you journey the whole game, and you have to evolve, and you have to learn what to eat and how not to die and how not to get killed. It's scary as hell at first, but it's really fun, and I like world building and stuff like that. So I'll sit there and I'll play for a few hours, you know, just kind of letting my mind wander, processing, so that I can recalibrate. You know what I'm saying? That becomes the thing. That becomes the thing. I know that that's called Ancestors. And I wish I could remember the people who make that one. But it's an incredible game. I'm a big fan. So yeah, there are many, many ways to cope. So I think one of the things we've kind of come across tonight is that what many of us realize, and I've said this, I have argued this point. I have argued this point, y'all, that for many, there are a lot of claims that we make when we were believers that are not actually valid, right? So I've talked about, we say that that people are religious because it helps them cope with fear of the afterlife. And I'm like, you must not have never been to a Christian funeral then, because ain't nobody in there feeling good. Ain't nobody in there like, yay, grandma's going to see Jesus. Aren't y'all happy? Granny's going to see Jesus. You know, Tyler Perry will put it in his movies where the person is dying and they're like, oh, I see the Lord. I'm going into his presence. Ain't nobody doing that. I've been at plenty of people's deathbeds. My presence ain't made nobody more comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So there are these things, and there's this phenomenon. I don't know. I don't know if there's a name for this one. I don't know if there's a name for it, but there's this phenomenon where we claim to be appeased by things that we're actually not appeased by. So people will say, this gives me faith, when it actually doesn't. They'll say, this gives me strength, and it actually doesn't. They'll say, this gives me joy, and it actually doesn't. What they're actually doing is reading off a social script. This is one of the reasons why it's really honest, and this is part of my neurospicy. It's really hard for me to engage in people that I'm not working with, right? Because I really need to know you, you know. And it's because I find that so many people are running on autopilot, that they're just running on these scripts. And I have a really hard time with those scripts. So I think one of the things we're discovering tonight is that actually the truth is that it has become much easier to cope without God. Like God was actually the hindrance to coping. You know, why do you need to cope when you can just cast all your cares on the Lord, for he cares for you? See, that's not coping. That's escaping. I don't have to deal with this. I'm going to cast my cares on the Lord. No, what does it say? Stand still, be still, and let the Lord fight your battle. That's not coping. No. But that's why it is so, oh my goodness, it is so important to actually know what coping is. You know, I shared a story earlier in our Sunday sessions about, and this was the month I deconverted because I was going through so much. I called one of my friends and I was crying. I'm bawling, grown man crying. I'm a failure and I'm this and I'm that. And he's like, bro, you got a degree, you married, you got kids, you started your own church from the ground up, you this, you that, and you all of the above. And I still didn't feel like any of that. And honestly, nothing that he said actually made me feel better. Actually, it made me realize he didn't get it. That my mental health is not defined by my degree or how many kids I have or any other accomplishments. There's something else going on inside of me that is deeply unsatisfied with life as is. And I'm trying to figure that shit out. But I realized that I was surrounded by people who were so much on script mode that I couldn't even have conversations to let me really process that shit, because it would always become, boy, you ain't got nothing to worry about. You good. You got all this going on. I'm like, bro, it's deeper than that. You know, I think I said that. I realized, oh, damn, my standards ain't your standards. Like, I don't want to look like I'm happy. I actually want to be happy. I don't want to look like I'm doing better. I actually want to be doing better. I don't want other people to be able to look at my life and say, Darante, you're doing good. I need to be able to live in this motherfucker and say I'm doing good. And if I'm living it and can't say I feel like I'm doing good, then you telling me you're doing good is completely overlooking and invalidating my lived experience, and you're not actually helping me. And so, like, one of the reasons I had to get the fuck away from church is because I realized what nobody in church. They didn't know how to cope. They didn't know how to pretend. And so you pretend to listen. You pretend to have the answers. You pretend to hear God. Man. Oh, man, we got a super chat. I was not expecting that, but this is what I love about this community, man. Misinterpretations 999 says, I'm loving your ministry to non-believers. I cope by reminding myself that it's okay, I believe, for so long. Yes, all I wanted was to belong, feel better, and do the right thing. Religions hone in on that. You are absolutely right. Thank you so much for that super chat, Misinterpretations. And thank you for that contribution to this conversation. Listen, for y'all that are watching, this is what makes this community impactful. This is what makes us special. But listen, we need your support to continue doing it. We cannot do it without you. So consider dropping a super chat with your question or checking out our Patreon so that you can join the movement. Man, I love this. And I love this. And so I do want to talk about this a little more. I cope by reminding myself that it's okay that I believe for so long, you know, but just Bible God's will. I thought, yeah, why bother when you already know the answer? I love that, Sharon. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's okay that I believe for so long. And that kind of goes back to Trayvon and I's conversation a little earlier. Is that it hurts sometimes in your life. You know, I know AT Coffee is a part of our team, which I got to get him back for the call-in show soon. But that was when he and I first met. That's when my heart went out to him. And I said, you know, I got to get him on the team. We've got to work together. Like, honestly, and, you know, like, it's a part of my mission to partner with AT because I love who he is. But the hardest thing for him, because he was in it much longer than I was. He didn't leave ministry until he was in his 60s, and he had spent his whole life in it. You know, all of the degrees he had were in theology, and he's a hard atheist like I am. And he's like, you to know that you spent, in his words, your best years. Now, I don't think it's his best years. I think his best years are ahead of him. But in his words, and so I know what that feels like because I never want to invalidate anybody else's experience. So I knew what he was saying. He said, you know, I lived my best years and gave it all to bullshit. It's really easy to look back on that and just kind of almost regressing yourself. But it is okay. No. Like, it's not like you just popped into it and decided, you know what, I'm just going to believe bullshit for a good, you know, no, that's not how that happened. You are the product of a social environment, a cultural environment, a family environment. You know, I think people think that you get your religious inclinations just from church, and that's just not true because 80% of Christians don't attend church regularly. I mean, y'all didn't know that, did you? 80% of Christians do not attend church regularly. So where are people getting all of these religious inclinations? Okay, I'm going to show you how this works. It starts in the house, and then it goes into school and daycare. Daycare and school, you got these teachers who are playing Christian music over the babies in the daycare because that's their mission, you know. And then you got these teachers in school who that's their mission to make a difference in somebody's life by showing them the love of Jesus Christ. And then you have these school systems that have these moments of silence that are not, you know what I'm saying? And then, of course, you live in a freaking Judeo-Christian type of society, which means it's hard for you to watch a movie without it being mentioned. It's hard for you to listen to music without it being mentioned, which is if you were a part of our 10K celebration fundraiser Friday, then you know a major part of what we're planning to do is with media and music, because you got to have more stuff. We got to have more stuff that people can listen to. It becomes pervasive. So no, I take it easy on myself. And I went hard. I went hard in the paint. I was a miracle evangelist. I was shaking people's heads and stuff. I was, you know, throwing my jacket at people and people was falling off, you know, falling down. I was like climbing over pews while I was preaching and stuff. Even as a big boy, I was doing all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, having a good time. And now I look back like, damn, you know, but also, oh God, this is good. Also, by the way, this is a call-in show, you know, so if you want to call in, you still got a little bit of time, man. You still got a little bit of time. but also I realized that I can look at my life with more nuance, right? So yes, I had nearly 2 decades of preaching absolute bullshit, of serving absolute bullshit on a silver platter. But also within those 2 decades, I have 2 decades of doing my best to love people with limited information. I have 2 decades of learning how to build communities. 2 decades of organizing events that impact people who are housing challenged, people who are food challenged. No, I have 2. See, like, that's the thing, like, because when people ask me today, like, who are you now? It's like, no, I'm still me. See, the thing is, once, and this is just me, once I realized that there was never a God in the first place, I realized Christianity didn't choose me. I chose Christianity. And I chose Christianity because, according to my understanding at that time, as a child growing up, latchkey kid, engrossed in Black media, where there was not one television show that was marketed towards Black children that didn't have a church episode that honored the pastor as a person of importance. It was in Living Single. It was in Martin, even though he was a scam artist in Martin. But it was in Martin. It was in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. It was in Family Matters. You could not turn to a show where the preacher was not glorified as the centerpiece of the community and as the person who was the helper of folk, and as me, as the person that I wanted to be. I said, I choose that. That's what I wanted to be. I gravitated towards that as the vehicle. So no, those 2 decades of bullshit, the good stuff that came out of that, it wasn't God, it was me. That was me feeding people. That was me convincing my church that we can go out there and buy 200 McDoubles from McDonald's and give them away. You know, it was me. That was my idea. Look at me. You know, those moments we had in church, there it is. There was 2 decades that, even though I was preaching bullshit, and it looks like we have another call that'll be coming in shortly. Even though I was preaching bullshit for 2 decades, I was loving the hell out of people, man. I was learning from people. I was creating experiences. Like, people looking and say, like, Darante, how are you so good at this? Man, listen, I got 99 problems. Preaching ain't one. Because I can look at myself with nuance now. Preaching doesn't exist for me the same way it exists for other people. Like, preaching is a Christian word. Not really, but you know what I'm saying. It's a word that when you hear it, you think preaching. It's like, no, I'm not preaching, I'm communicating. I'm just talking very passionately. I've had professors that talk just like this. Hell, we've seen daytime television people that talk just like this. We've seen comics that talk just like this. So I don't allow church, religion, Christianity, or anything else to take ownership of me. Like, no, it was all me. You know, again, 2 decades of bullshit, but also 2 decades of harnessing this talent, this skill, this ability, and turning it, and allow me to brag on myself a little bit, but turning myself, I got to mold myself into this beast of a communicator, this beast like I'm not a fan of Steve Harvey. I'm a fan of Family Feud Steve Harvey. I'm not a fan of real life Steve Harvey. You know, I'm a fan of Strawberry Letters Steve Harvey. I'm just not a fan of real life Steve Harvey. But Steve Harvey, in one of his stand-up comics, he has this divine eye. Y'all, if y'all enjoying this conversation, drop some fire in the chat. And if you really enjoying this conversation, consider dropping a super chat or joining our Patreon. I also got to get y'all on the email list. But he's doing this stand-up comedy routine, and he says he's had this gift since he was a child, and the gift was, and I identified with it so much. He did it when he was doing with MegaFest, right? And I promise you, I'm doing my best to do a fucking secular MegaFest. I'm going to do a secular MegaFest if it's the last thing I do. But no, but he said I got this gift where I can see things and communicate them in a way that other people could understand. And when he said that, I was like, oh, that's what I do. But that's literally what comedians do. That's literally what educators do. That's what we all do, you know. And so I got 2 decades of pulling that, man. I have 2 decades of learning that. Now, mind you, the first 10 years I was a preacher, a secular humanist for 4 days now. Congratulations. Come on into the party. And our co-host, as soon as we get him on camera. But I had to, man, life felt much better recently. That is beautiful. That's how it was for me. Like, please don't get, life didn't get easier, but it did get better. And it got better because I got better. And that was the whole thing. Life don't get better, we do. Life is indifferent as fuck. You know what I'm saying? But we get better. We can get better. I can have a healthier approach. And the thing about healthier approach is that it's not always, ooh, here it is. A healthier approach is not always a happier approach, right? So like, you think that the only healthy approach is everything is going to be okay, which takes us back to how believers typically cope. It's something I got tired of. Like, don't tell me everything is going to be okay if you don't have the capacity to understand exactly what is wrong, because your words are useless. You don't know if everything's going to be okay or not. But we've gotten so used to doing fake nice, doing play nice, just saying words. It's go back to that thing I mentioned earlier. We're scripted. We're running on these scripts, just playing games and not really, you know, no, if I say something to you, I want to be sincere. You know, so if something's tragic going on in your life, I'm not going to tell you I know it's going to work out, because I don't know if it's going to work out. And we've lived long enough to know sometimes it don't. Mr. Meats, that name is going to make me laugh. Giggity. $20. Thank you so much. Love your show. I'm an atheist married to an ordained minister with a master's degree in theology, and I love what you're doing here. It's so refreshing. Wow. Thank you so much, man. See, now I have like a whole bunch of class because I want to know more about that dynamic. I want to know more about that dynamic. Maybe Kyle can't come on video, so I'm just gonna bring him up anyway. I'm gonna bring him up. Kyle, how you doing, man?
Hey, sorry about that.
Oh yeah, did I bring you up early? Did I bring you up too early?
No. I couldn't. I didn't realize I didn't have my video on.
Well, man, since you're here, look, I've been on a rabbit trail for a minute. Oh, we just got another super chat. Let me holler at this real quick. And this is from Dark Side of Delight Productions, $20. Y'all actually see this brother's name in our credits. And I've had his name in our credits for the longest, and I just got to the place where I can actually use the stuff he's lended us. But so when you see the subscribe in my videos now, that's all coming from Zernell Shackelford, Dark Side. I don't even know if I have permission to say your name, but I did it. Damn it. All right. But he said dropping a super chat just to be dropping a super chat because I believe in the cause. Brother, I love you. Thank you so much. This has been amazing already. Like y'all are too good. Y'all are too good. Did we get another one? Okay. I think we got another one. All right. Dave Green, $20. Keep doing what you're doing, Darante. A lot of people out there need the support and need to know they're not alone. You're doing great. Oh man, thank y'all. Y'all are gonna have me crying on the show tonight. And Kyle just got in. He don't need to see me getting ugly yet. Like that's what we used to do when we were preachers. We'd get ugly. We get the ugly cry going on to get God's attention.
That's right.
Speaking of which, we do have a caller that's getting ready to come in. Got to stoke him up, man. We got a caller that's getting ready to come in. But Kyle, I want to catch you up to some of the conversation that we've been talking about. So we've kind of slipped over into this idea that when we were believers, we were actually never really coping, that we were actually doing more like escapism. And because a lot of times we'd pray and the prayer wouldn't work. And then we'd say something to ourselves to make us feel like, well, it didn't have to work this time. God has something better. Or we'd lend ourselves over to scriptures like, cast your cares on the Lord because he cares for you. Or you be still and let the Lord fight your battle. And so we begin to realize like, damn, we're not really coping. We're just pretending like somebody else is handling it. Right. So now you and I slipped up on a conversation on Facebook earlier about them days with the prayer shawls. Right. And I felt like that fit this conversation But like when I was really dealing with some stuff as a pastor, I felt like I needed, that regular praying wouldn't work. I needed some super prayer at this moment, And so I'd go get my shawl, man, and I'd wrap myself up in it and hoping that by doing so, this would really get God's attention. Like now he sees I done pulled the shawl out. God sees I done pulled this, like heaven is standing at attention saying, hey, God, he pulled out the shawl. He's serious now. Can you talk to us a little bit what that relationship is like for pastors and how we use prayer or how we try to use prayer to cope and deal oftentimes with God's absence? And for those who don't know what a prayer shawl is, give them a little education. Let them know how deep we really were.
Well, I like the way you said that, God's absence, right?
Yes.
Pastors, but really everyone that ever really got serious about Christianity will probably relate to this if you're looking at it from an honest perspective and looking at it objectively. We were always searching for something real. And the prayer shawl was one of those things that came up through the journey. It was another one of those things that we put our faith and confidence in, that maybe this is what it's going to take, or maybe this is what we can use to finally get something real. And we were on this quest and we were on this journey for something real because, again, this God was always absent. And like you said, Darante, we always had to make excuses for why things wasn't working. One of my favorite excuses was, well, all things work together for good.
Yes, sir.
For those that love the Lord and called according to his purpose. So I don't know where I learned about the prayer shawl, but I probably was watching TBN one day because that's where I ended up getting my prayer shawl from. And somebody was on there. It might have even been the Jewish Jesus. There was a show on TBN called The Jewish Jesus, I think it was, or something like that.
Yes.
And there was this Jewish rabbi who had become a Christian, and he would, teach all about the Jewish things with Jesus. And he had on this white like towel almost with like Jewish print on it, a little Jewish print. And he said, this is a prayer shawl, and he began to show pictures of the Jewish people at the Wailing Wall, and they have the prayer shawl on there going like this and things like that. And he started talking about this connection. This is a point of contact, so to speak. And now, I grew up in a church where my pastor was incredibly against any kind of points of contact. And I didn't even know what they were. I just remember he's always saying, you don't need no point of contact. You don't need no point of contact. You don't need no point of contact. I didn't know what it meant, but I just knew he was always against it. And I guess during his era, people were doing the handkerchiefs and these different kind of things. And but again, I mean,
oh yes,
yeah, all of these things are, kind of derived from the fact that our prayers were not being answered.
Yep.
We were getting no real results. So we were always on a quest looking for that next thing, or not even the next thing, but the thing that would actually get God to respond. We had a running joke in our church at one point, and it was like, hey, God, do something. Move, twitch, blink, pass gas, do something. Just do something.
Yes. Oh man. Oh man.
We were so convinced that the slightest twitch from this God would give us something to, that kind of give us some validity to this whole thing being real. And the sadness is we don't realize it takes a long time to acknowledge that nothing's really happening. And not only do we just kind of really go all in this escapism idea, but we also become incredible apologists for that God.
Yes.
We excuse away every single thing that doesn't work, and we become masterful gaslighters of ourselves.
Oh man.
And you want to talk about trauma? The constant belief that you're not doing enough, the constant understanding that, if you would have just prayed a little harder, or fasted one more hour, or worshiped a little bit more, or studied just a little while longer, God would have shown up. I tell people all the time, probably one of the greatest reliefs in my life has come from the fact that I wake up every day with the knowledge of knowing that I don't have to do shit.
Yes.
You know?
Oh
And this is
man.
coming from a adult life of believing that every day I had to try so hard to measure up to
Yeah.
this God, to get this God to do something, anything that would give me any sense of strength to continue.
Wow.
So again, back to the prayer shawl. The prayer shawl is just one of those things I kind of stumbled upon and was like, okay, this must be the answer. This must be it. This is what the Jews use. This is what they use. So clearly, if they use it, this must be the answer. And we conned ourselves to believe that no matter what it was, we was always getting some power. We was always getting some anointing or something from it. We
Yeah.
conned ourselves because we were so desperate. And in that level of desperation,
Oof.
um, we really deceive ourselves a great deal.
Oh man. Okay, now you just hit on something hard there, and I damn, this is good. Okay, because I definitely had the prayer shawl, and it was very important to me, but it was important to me because I was seeking that anointing and
Right.
seeking that. It was always a great glory that you're supposed to be seeking. And like when you said, like, that thought of, man, if I just would have prayed another hour or fasted another
Hmm.
day, like
Hmm.
those were real thoughts. Like you
Right.
spend 3 days or 3 weeks fasting, expecting God to work out some miracle, and then the
Hmm.
miracle doesn't happen, and you begin to think like, damn. Instead of saying God doesn't exist, or that God doesn't like me,
Right.
you say,
Right.
no, I didn't pray long enough. I didn't fast
Right.
long enough. And so
Right.
which of course does open people like us who was in that. It opens us up for all types of scams, right? Do you know
Right.
how many handkerchiefs and shawls those people sold, man? They were selling water, the holy water,
Yeah. Yeah.
sand
Yeah.
that Jesus had walked on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bishop Eddie Long was one of my mentors, and
Hmm.
so I had bought the shamir.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, it's like a K-sock, but it has no sleeves, and he put that thing, and that meant the authority had come, that the real power came. I got me one of them things as soon as I could. But which watch this, which shows that we didn't really have any confidence in ourselves.
Right.
That this idea is I have to put something on to be
Hmm.
valuable to God. Damn, I got to dress up to be valuable to God. I got to put on this shawl. I got to put on this shamir. God won't work through me unless I got on these specific clothes. Like it's crazy, man. This is, oh man. Okay.
The
So
shofar.
we got another super chat,
Yeah.
right? The shofar. Oh man. I got ordained with a shofar.
Did
The
you really?
last time I was ordained, I did. I did.
Wow. Wow.
The last time I got ordained, which was in Greenville, South Carolina, that was by Ron Carpenter. I was still a very
Ron
big boy.
Carpenter.
And
Yeah.
I say this
Familiar.
because they make you get ordained on your knees. And they're this 580-pound guy on my knees for like 45 minutes while they're praying and prophesying over me. And then they put the oil in the shofar and then put it over your head and let the oil drip all down you. And I just remember thinking, this is how you knew I wasn't going to be a believer for long after that. I just remember thinking like, damn, my knees hurt, man. And what's going to happen if this oil gets on my shirt? Like, what is, yikes. Like, I'm not rich like that. I don't have dry cleaning money like this. Like, what? I was like, and that's when I knew, like, your spirit ain't in it. You're supposed to be caught up out of that about sotaya. You're supposed to be caught up right now.
Yeah.
And I was speaking in tongues, but thinking about my knees the whole damn time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. Let me tell you a little
We did
story.
have a super chat from Left-Handed Jedi. If y'all could put it on the screen for me. Let me see here. There it is. I saw it and it went away. There it is. Thank you so much. Left-Handed Jedi, $5. Oh man, thank you, man. You are beautiful. God is code blue. Resuscitating in 3, 2, 1. Now we're gonna put God on DNR, baby. Do not resuscitate. Let this one go.
Yeah.
You make let's go ahead and let that insurance check come in and go ahead and head down to the bank and cash that mother. Oh man. So
Yeah.
Kyle, one of the things, and remind you, I thought we had a chat. I thought we had a call coming in, right? It actually turned out not to be a call. They just wanted to jump into Discord and talk to my wife. So they didn't want to talk to us. They just wanted to talk to her instead.
The
But it's
nerve.
cherry easier to make. That's what I said. How rude, you know? Uh, but one of the things that I realized after deconverting is that I had less to cope
Right.
about after deconverting. While I was still, if enough people didn't show up on Sunday, I was having to cope. If
Oh,
somebody left my church, I was having to cope. If,
yeah.
if I couldn't pay rent, I was having to cope. If somebody hurt my feelings, I was having to cope. After I deconverted and let go of the idea that there's a great big God who's in control of everything, or there are these demons and there's a spiritual warfare, the world just became indifferent for me. It was just like, oh no, they're not devils attacking you, they're not angels helping you. Life happens. You didn't have enough money, that's why the lights got cut off. It's really
Right.
just that's simple. You got some options here. You got some options, but that's really what you have to navigate. So I did find, especially after dealing with depression and anxiety my entire
Hmm.
life, and I'm talking about when I was a younger person and a teenager. I dealt with suicide ideation, all those types of things. I don't want to say that it magically went away, but after deconverting, there was a lot less stuff for me to feel like was a judgment against me. There was a
Yeah.
lot less stuff to where I felt like I needed to cope, because I no longer felt like there was a God or a devil who was judging or fighting me or keeping something from me or not pleased with me anymore. It just became, oh, life is happening, and I got to learn
Right.
how to navigate it. So my question for you is, for on your journey, how do you cope now? Like, what do you do? Do you feel like that you have more that you have to cope with now, or less? Like, what does this journey look like for you?
Well, no, it's far less. You know,
Wow.
we I think we may have mentioned this on the show prior, and that is when my belief in a Satan or devil stopped. Well, so did the spiritual warfare or the attacks from this devil. Because as long as I had believed in the devil, which is since I was a little child, because it seemed like I heard a lot more about the devil than I did about God. Um, and hearing about spiritual attacks and spiritual
Yeah.
attacks and
Oh
spiritual
man.
attacks all my
Yes.
life, I kind of got accustomed to the idea that this is going to be a lifelong thing. Everything's going to be a spiritual attack. Everything's going to be the devil, and it's kind of you know telling that the rhetoric says the devil is busy. The average Christian, especially in the black church,
Yes.
that's a
Yes.
common phrase. Oh, the devil's busy. The devil's busy, which leads one to
Devil's
ask the
busy.
question, well, what is God doing? If this devil is so busy, what is God doing? We've never
Man.
heard the slogan or the phrase, God is busy. Or God is busy. We've never heard it. I've never
Yes.
heard it. It probably doesn't exist in
Nope.
Christianity that God is busy. We get the narrative of wait on God, be patient,
Yeah.
trust God, but never God is busy, because this God is never doing anything. But this God's adversary is always doing something. This busy as can be. So when I believed in the devil and these things, something was always happening, or at least, as you said, we would identify it as attacks of the enemy. So
Yeah.
now, as when life happens, as you mentioned, life happens. My car transmission went last year. I didn't go into some panic.
Wow.
I didn't go into some God, what's
Yes.
happening? God, what are you gonna do? I got my ass up, took it to the shop, you know, and just dealt with the
Come
the
on.
process of
Yes.
having to rent a car until the car was fixed. That was it. That was it.
Come on.
Uh, Everything was the attack of the enemy. A flat tire was an attack of the enemy. A headache was
Yes,
a
sir.
spiritual attack. Everything was an attack of the enemy. So in that mindset, you're always under attack. You're always being bothered. You're always being oppressed and things like that. So we created this whole euphoric environment of something was always happening and we needed all this stuff. But now, since we're looking at things as just life, it seems like there's a whole lot less things that are happening. you know, and we're just dealing with life
Come
as it
on, man.
comes.
Yes. Yep. Yep. That's man, that's so beautiful because I identify with that like 100%. By the way, we got 90 people watching right now. Man, all 90 of you, have you shared this stream yet? Have you liked it? Have you subscribed to this channel where we have conversations like this all the time? And of course, you hit that alert notification bell. And consider joining our Patreon or our YouTube membership program because our community is growing like wildfire right now. And we need your support to make some real tangible impact. And we're excited about that. All right. So, man, okay. So, me now, like you said, I no longer feel like the devil is always attacking me. I no
Right.
longer feel like God is judging me.
Right.
So, and now when things are happening, I don't feel like I need to manipulate God into working a miracle for me.
Right.
As a matter of fact, I no longer need miracles. Like miracles are
Amen.
not something I need. I
Amen.
remember having a, you know what I'm saying? I
Yeah.
remember having a moment with myself one time in that last year that I was pastoring where I realized, you know, I couldn't pay my rent. And I was like, I need a miracle to pay my rent. And it was just like, how many times have you needed a miracle to pay your rent? That's not a good thing, bro.
Right.
This is like the 8th time
Exactly.
this year you needed a
Exactly.
miracle.
Exactly.
Yes,
I
man.
remember one day having that epiphany, that revelation, telling my church, if you're living your life based upon miracles, something's wrong.
Yes.
You know,
Yes, man.
everything you need a miracle for,
Yes.
something's wrong. And I remember that they looked at me real strange because we grew up. One of our most popular, famous songs in our church was "Lord, we need a miracle. Lord, we need a miracle. Lord, we need a miracle. Oh yeah, a miracle, miracle
Yes,
right now." And the drum, da, you know, and we turned into a frenzy over that song. So
man.
yeah,
Yes. You know, and then you hit this idea of desperation. And that was definitely something I wanted to circle back to because, you know, I was in the revival circles. You or God isn't moving, you're not experiencing the power of God
right.
because you're not desperate enough. You got to get more desperate. And they'd always have these anecdotal stories about the people over in Africa are desperate. And that's why
Right.
they see their dead raised back to life. They see
Yeah.
limbs grow back. So because they're desperate. And I remember like telling God, I want to be more desperate for you. I want to chase after you as the deer panteth after the water. I want to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
desperate. And I mean, we wrote all of those songs, and I'm hearing myself say that now, like, and just realizing how incredibly unhealthy that is. But we're pushing ourselves to that. And again, this is a sign that, like, no, we're not really coping. We're pretending, and then we're pushing ourselves to the max to try to do something to get the slightest bit of evidence so we can feel like we haven't wasted our time.
Yeah.
And it's like you say, like, you know, God, just fart, do something, like just do
Right.
something. I'd be okay. God, if you just come in the room and pass gas right now, at least I know you're in the room. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh man,
Yeah.
please. But can you imagine being in a relationship with somebody you love? Being in a relationship with somebody you love that you care about, whether it's a parent, a partner, or a child,
Mhm.
and you're having to beg them to speak to you. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? You're having to beg them for their attention. Just please, just say something to me. Just one word. That's
Right.
not a healthy place to be in.
No.
And
No.
that's why I realized, like, man, a lot of this theology, man, it had my mental health all
Right.
types of jacked up, you know.
Right.
And it wasn't until I kind of separated myself from that space where I could realize, like, no, no, dude, you can navigate. Like, that was the biggest thing. Holy shit. Okay, that was the biggest thing for me, Kyle,
Yeah.
is that realize you know, in scripture, you know, as a Christian, I thought I had a really good self-image. I thought because
Right.
as a Christian, I believe greater is
Right.
he that is in
Right.
me than he that
Right.
is in the world. As a
Mhm.
Christian, I believe that I could do all things through Christ who
Right.
strengthens me. You know, there's another one uh, you know, I believe that he's able to do exceeding
Exceedingly
thing. Or
abundantly.
went
Yeah.
back to reinvestigate it and said, no, that's not what you believe about you. It's what you believe about what this imaginary thing can do with you.
Right.
You believe you are an empty, incapable vessel
Right.
that can't handle anything without it, which is why anytime life happens, you feel like you got to run to it and get it to do something on your behalf because you don't have a healthy self-image. But it's like ever
Exactly.
since I've let that go, when life happens, I'm like, this is hard. This may hurt, but I tell you what, I can handle it. I'm good for this. After
Absolutely.
all the hell that I've been through, after everything that I have survived. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm preaching. I didn't mean to preach, but I gotta hit this. I remember running into this ideology of real life. Like I was in the middle of crying, in the middle of bawling, snotting and everything, saying these words. I don't know how I'm gonna make it. I don't know how I can't handle this. You said you never put more on me than I can bear. This is gonna break me, God. And in the middle of that, I said, it didn't break me last time. I said the same thing last time. I said I wouldn't make it out. I said I would not be able to make it through. I said but what happened? I made it through. And I realized, like, Darante, how have you repeated this over and over and over and over again and have never stopped to give yourself credit for making it through? Now you're sitting here crying like, I don't know how I'm gonna make it. Motherfucker, you're gonna make it the same way you made it last time. After you get finished crying to this imaginary sky daddy, sky pimp, you're gonna get your ass up and figure out how to navigate. That became so liberating for me, of actually realizing that I can navigate, that I can understand. And so it's like, I now have less that I need to cope about. We have another super chat in the chat, and another super chat in the chat. Before we hit it, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah,
I gotta read it now because it's up there and it's funny. I'm gonna read it real quick. Dark Side of Delight Productions. Thank you, brother. $20. Man, we've been on a roll tonight. The Godfather making you an offer you can't refuse. Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for that, Dark Side, man. I love you, brother. I love you. All right, Kyle, back to you, man. I'm sorry. I had to read that one. It was too funny.
No, that was good. That was good. That was good. You know, one of the reasons why I talk so much against Christianity, you know, I would probably talk against every religion if I knew every religion as much as I know Christianity. But I leave it specific to Christianity because I know Christianity very intimately and very much in depth because I was part of it for so long. But one of the reasons why I speak so much against Christianity is how toxic it is to our human condition. And from the jump, you have to convince yourself how bad you are and how incapable you are and how weak you are. You have to convince yourself that you are a worthless speck of nothing. And if you don't get this God, if you don't get this Jesus, there's absolutely nothing you can do of any value or any substance. And you have to pretty much just deny all of your own human abilities. Even if you have coped and handled life up to this point, you have to then unlearn how to do all these things. And the more you unlearn these things from the Christian perspective, the closer you are to this God. The weaker you become, the closer you are to this God. The more desperate you become, the closer you are to this God. And we don't think about it that way, but just how but you know just how demoralizing is that to our human condition if we have to become weaker and feebler and more desperate and less confident about ourselves in order to get close to this God who is supposed to be empowering us to do great things. But it's really just a con of all cons that really take us out of who we are, and it's designed to take us out of who we are because it has to keep us dependent on the system. And it's tragic. It really is tragic. And I just want to I try my best to help people see how good they are, how strong they are, how capable they are, how worthy they are, how loving they are.
Mhm.
They as themselves, within their own
Yeah.
humanity, within their own ability, within their own strength, within their own
Yes.
capacity, within their own autonomy, that they are by themselves, all these things all by themselves. Because that's what freed me. That's what gives me the confidence to get up every day, kick ass in this life, and really make a dent as I'm
Yes.
starting to make, because I realize how goddamn strong and capable and functioning I can be as a human being who don't need no God or savior to make my way. I make my own damn
Yes.
way, and I'm doing pretty damn good at it now that I've ditched all that other
Yeah.
nonsense.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Because we are capable. That's why I was so attracted to your messaging when I first started seeing your stuff on TikTok and started seeing you on Facebook. It was like, oh man, he's people centric, man. He's like that. That's when I know you got the right message out of it. You went to the right church. You
I
studied
did.
under the right pastor.
I did.
That's what happened
I
there.
got
You
that.
was
I
under the
got the
right
oil
bishop.
from
You
the
know,
right anoint, the oil from the right beard.
got the oil. There you go. Yes. But I absolutely love it because I know for me that's become a big thing. Like the goal is, yep, we got that one, y'all. The goal is to help people get a grip on their own sense of autonomy, their own sense of agency, and their own sense of authenticity. Because you begin to realize that that's what religions and that's cultural superstitions begin to deprive people of. That's what it robs people of. I know that's what I was deprived myself of. When you think about scriptures like his strengths are made perfect in my weakness. His strengths are made perfect in my weakness. If somebody else's strength is made perfect in my weakness, that's a fucking narcissist. If the only time you can be strong is when I'm weak, something's wrong. If the only time you can increase is for me to decrease, something
Right.
is wrong. But that becomes our life and our approach as believers, that and the only way for me to be valuable is that I've got to be less than. I've got to decrease for him to increase. It is no longer I who live, but Christ who lives within me. I was one of those deep Christians, so I was very much about crucifying and mortifying the deeds of the flesh, keeping your flesh in subjection. And it wasn't until like I watched, it's a weird movie. Oprah Winfrey was in it. She may have produced it. It was Beloved. It was based on a book. And in this book, there was this woman, her name was Mama Sue. And there was this thing what she was doing. And she said, they want you to hate your flesh, but love you. You don't love your flesh. You're supposed to hate your flesh.
Mhm.
You're not supposed to glory in your flesh at all. But for that moment, I realized what she was saying. There it is by Toni Morrison. Thank you, Parable of Sower. I realized what she was saying. It was love yourself. You've got to be able to love yourself. And it
Mhm.
created a dissonance within me because I
Mhm.
realized that, my religion actually kind of forbids me from loving myself.
Mhm.
I have to deprioritize myself. I have to constantly see myself as less than, which is why I always needed to cope. Because
Right.
think about it. Like, if you view yourself as a child and you never nurture that child with love, you never nurture that child with praise. You never tell that child what it's capable of accomplishing. You never tell that child the great things that it can do. You constantly tell that child, you're nothing without me. You constantly tell that child that if I'm not with you, nothing is going to work. That absolutely destroys a person. If that's how you grow up, you're not going to feel like you can do much of anything. You're going to always feel like you need to depend on somebody else, which takes me back to that prayer shawl. Those things were like our security blankets.
Right.
This isn't working, so let me get a different security blanket. The prayer isn't working, let me add the shawl. The preaching isn't working, let me add the shamir. Damn, this conversation got good tonight, man. I was not expecting this conversation to zag the way that it did, but I love it because this is real. Like, I honestly thought the focus of tonight's conversation were people were going to be, we'd all talk about like, well, instead of prayer, I meditate now, or I go to therapy, or I do these things. But I'm really glad to hear, and I would have been down for that conversation.
Right.
But what I'm really glad to hear that seems to be somewhat common is that many of us, when we've left this idea of God, I don't want to say life got easier, but our perspective of life got healthier, which in turn helped us be a little healthier.
Right.
And there becomes a little less things, or less things that we're actually having to cope with.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's absolutely beautiful. Now, in no way does it say grief is an instigator in anxiety, in stress, in depression, in mental turmoil. And once you let that idea go in a healthy way, it can be really good for your mental health. Man, looks like we don't have any more callers for tonight calling in. Kyle, you have any final thoughts for us, man?
Well, sorry I'm late, for one. But sometimes the devil is busy, so
Life happens.
yeah, life happens. The devil's busy. No,
Devil is
but
always busy.
I too would have been okay if some of the things people talked about how they cope now would have been the meditation or the therapy, things of that nature, because I think those things are very valuable tools. But I'm so happy to kind of get on the tail end of this a little bit, to kind of get the sense of that people are realizing just how good they are by themselves and how capable they are themselves. I'll tell you a real quick story. When I was in my
Yes.
deepest, darkest, lowest, most desperate moment of life, where I felt like you were saying earlier, Durante, having suicidal tendencies, that was the strongest that they'd ever been for me. When I was in
Wow.
that place, I heard, you need to go within. And instinctively,
Wow.
I knew the answers I was searching for was in me.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
the fight here was pray. The fight here was ask God to help you. Because I still hadn't quite freed myself from that belief that this is the time you need to cry out to God. This is the time you need to ask God to help you. I was still fighting it. And I almost did one time. I almost prayed one time, but everything inside me knew that's not going to help you. You know this. You know that's not going to help you. So I decided to take the journey within myself. And it was hard and it was difficult, it was challenging, but it was the most life-changing journey I ever took. And it convinced me that I am who I am all by myself, and I can do anything I need to get done. And I know everything, and everything is already within me, all the wisdom I need, all the strength I need, all of the answers that I need. It's all already within me. I just have to be willing to go inside to dig these things out if necessary.
Come
And
on.
that was my moment. That was the moment I knew. That's when I knew that gods are useless, saviors are useless, but we as individuals, we're everything. We
Come
are
on now.
absolutely everything. And that's what really got me to where I am today, as far as promoting humanity over gods and saviors.
Man, I love it. Thank you so much for that, Kyle. That was absolutely beautiful. As we say around here at Bird City, it's the people, stupid.
Yeah,
Every good thing that has happened, every bad thing that's happened, it's been us. It's been
yeah,
us. And
yeah.
that's scary at sometimes because we see that we can be we can be vile, we can be ugly, but we also see that we can be beautiful, we can be amazing, we can be uplifting, we can be inspiring and motivating. And once you realize that you don't need a God to be any of those things, you can lean into it more. And that's what I feel like people like myself and Kyle are doing, is leaning into what we can do. No longer needing miracles to love people, no longer needing miracles to help people, no longer needing miracles to live. Just loving life kind of as it is, and experiencing it every day. And that's a beautiful thing. So I think, so again, Kyle, thank you for being with us tonight, man. I'm glad you were able to make it in, and we still got some super duper valuable conversation out of this. And so
Beautiful.
I'm going to drop you to the back, man. I love you, bro. We'll talk in just a few.
All right, bro.
And
Love you.
awesome. I put you back up. And I did it again. I'm clicking the wrong button, man. It's me. It's me. But listen, y'all, tonight has been absolutely phenomenal. I want to, of course, thank everybody who contributed tonight in super chats. You are absolutely beautiful, and you're the reason that we can continue doing this work. You're the reason that we're still here. We started doing this last year as far as this channel work with only 52 subscribers, and now we're already over 11,200 subscribers. That's because of people like you who share these streams, share these videos, who like the videos, who who have subscribed to the channel, obviously. And also those of you who are supporting with giving. You're helping us move from just being a platform for a content creator to actually being a channel that builds community and allows community to spread, so that we can have more people-centric projects and programs that are out there that will eventually become networks that can support more and more people. Those are the things that I'm excited about. We create these experiences and these conversations so that people who are either struggling or people who are just curious can have these safe places to engage these conversations while they're working on their own personal growth and development, because we're all on this journey together. And it's about time that we start working more together to make these things happen. So again, thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to get ready to close it up. Let me make sure, do I have any announcements? If you haven't told us where you're watching from yet, what are you waiting on? This is a great opportunity. Let us know where you're watching from so we can add a little ping for you on our map so that we can keep track of where everybody is. We're not like tracking you like that, but tracking where we can build community, right? Bridge City weekends have been delayed, but not denied. We are recalibrating. We're moving from 2 days to 3 days when we get started back. And we're adding some more stuff in there, and we're building more interest in those local areas so that when we can come strong. The whole goal is that for every Bridge City weekend event, the big goal is that once we leave that weekend, that there is a team of people in place to continue building secular community in those areas. That is something I am not just excited about, it's something I am committed to. That's the mission for Bridge City, is to build community beyond superstition, because community is the basic building block to change. All right, I've said a lot. I think I've hit everything that I'm supposed to hit. If I haven't, love me anyway. It's been a long weekend. It's been a long day. I got some meetings lined up for this week, and oh snap, I got calls and stuff to make. But I love y'all so much. Thank you for hanging out. And until next time, man, y'all keep rising. And of course, until next time, be the bridge. And we'll holler at y'all later.
I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm a fuck with the ball, yeah. I finally found the agency to live in my authenticity. Ooh, I got my own autonomy. You could never bother me. Yes, I'm unfucked with the ball. Let me tell you how I know. I had to get up off the floor. I had to get it out the mud. I had to finally let it go. I know my mama told me so, but she could never really know that when a boy was getting older, that his mind was getting sober, yeah. But I'm getting closer now. I had a church, but I closed it down. Had to reverse the